Hey guys, this is Alessandro. Welcome back to my channel. A couple of weeks ago, I was invited as a guest in an animation school here in Singapore, and I was talking about one of my first experience, my first job here in Singapore, and I mentioned how, me being a good animator, but also the fastest animator in the company, this actually led to me being promoted, very quickly. After 1 year, I went from a senior animator to a supervisor, and so the host of the talk, he asked me, Alessandro, what kind of suggestion do you have for the students or junior animator who actually struggle with their speed, struggle to stay focused and stuff like that. They always take very long to do a task. You mentioned that you were the fastest. What kind of advice do you have? And I felt like, I give a talk, of course, but also I mentioned this would be very interesting for all of you guys that you follow my channel. So maybe those advice can apply for you. It can be good advice as well. All right. So in general, I feel like I have a 4 point that I can mention to you guys that really help my speed in execution, right? I will start with the very first one. And the first one is that I'm very organized and very methodical when it comes planning the deadline and everything, all right? And I want to give you some context so you can better understand my approach. Back then when I was in Singapore, my first job, each animator has a 40-second shot, almost like a short movie, that needed to be done from the layout to the final polish in 1 month, right? We had 4 weeks. So in my head, when you have such a big task, I was like, okay, how am I gonna split in a smaller task? And ideally was, you know what, on the first week, at the end of the first week, I'm gonna deliver the full layout with the main key poses, even though the main key poses are not roughly done perfectly, like maybe 70% done, but at least I want to make sure that the storytelling, the timing, the gag, everything is working fine, right? So the second week, I'm gonna focus on polishing those main key poses and add all the main breakdown, extreme, contact poses and stuff like that, all right? Again, get approved, move on, and having the third week where now I'm gonna focus doing the blocking plus. Then if you follow my channel, you know that the blocking plus is mostly having a key every couple of frames, doing all the easy in, easy out, adjust the spacing, making the timing better, the arc, overlapping, drag, all those things, right? And then the final week, the fourth one, is mostly spline and polish, because more or less everything is there. You just need to, clean it up, polish it, and make it look really good, all right? So when we start at the beginning, as I mentioned, the first thing is it's to do a layout, right? So generally, I will spend maybe the first 3 days to do a layout pass very quickly. 40 seconds is a lot, 30-40 seconds is a lot. So obviously I try to do the pose not really perfect, but at least try to get the intention, move the simple camera movement. I won't do a lot of breakdown. I will do the main key pose and storytelling point, right? And then very quickly I go to my supervisor or my director. I would say, hey, this is the layout. What do you think? It's gonna give me some suggestions. It's gonna say, hey, here the story doesn't really translate very well from the storyboard. We need to change this and this. The timing here, if it's too slow now, we watch it in 3D. You might need more time over here. This character reaction doesn't really fit. Change this and that. And then again, obviously, hopefully the change is about 25-30% of the layout. So I'm gonna spend another days and a half to address it as fast as possible. Then maybe Friday morning, I'm gonna go back to him for another check. He's gonna give me some notes. Most of the time by Friday 6 p.m. I managed to lock down the layout, and next week I can move to the blocking, right? Obviously, with this approach where I check and I get feedback very often, if the feedback is a lot actually, then I know that maybe in the next 2 days I need to be faster, I need to work faster, less distraction, really focus to understand what are the key points of the feedback and adjust only what is really necessary, and don't waste to do breakdown and stuff like this only because I want things to make it look good, right? Again, I'm not gonna make the post perfect, I'm gonna make it decent enough so people understand what's going on, right? And so, this is done. Second week, I know the storytelling point, everything is done. I don't have to worry about the story. Everything, more or less, the key things are there. Now what I have to focus is make those posts looks really good, and the main breakdown, right? And again, the methodology is always the same. I work for a couple of days. Maybe I work on 40% of the layout, so I work only on the first half. After a couple of days, I go to my supervisor, director, say, those are the poses. It's gonna help me to fix some of them. Hey, this line of action, it doesn't fit the character, or blah blah blah, whatever it is. When I go back to my desk, I fix all those notes, right? Maybe on the first half, and then I try to understand what kind of feedback he give me. So when I'm gonna do the second half of the blocking, now I will incorporate those details as well, right? If he tell me to be more careful about the line of action, or maybe the facial expression, or maybe the pose is not, it doesn't feel on character or whatever, I try to understand those notes and incorporate it in the second half. And again, by usually Thursday night or something, I'll go back to him and say, hey, this is the full thing. It's gonna give me again some notes, and then I have to see, like, can I fix all those notes by Friday, and then have these things approved and move next. If we don't, maybe on Thursday I'm gonna do a few extra hour. A few times, guys, I did it like overtime a little bit on Saturday, but most of the time, guys, I can guarantee you with this plan that I try to nail down things very quickly. Very rarely I have to do overtime, right? And so things get approved in the second week. Third weeks I will do again the blocking plus, adjust making the spacing better, adjust the timing, overlapping, arc, and the things are always the same, right? It's gonna give some feedback. I'm gonna ask feedbacks twice a week. And then usually when it comes to the last week, usually that part, it's always very easy because the story is there, the timing is there, all the poses are there. I just need to clean up those things and make them look good. The body mechanics are all there. I don't have to do anything to improve the body mechanics. Everything has been settled down already in the past few weeks. And again, I'll do the same. I do first the first half of it. I show to him. He's gonna give me feedback about polish. I'm gonna clean it up, apply to the second part, and so on. And with this, again, obviously I'm not saying it's perfect, but I could control really my process very, very well. I finish always on time. Few times I managed to finish early and managed to help some of my colleagues that they were struggling, right? But this approach I find it to be very, very good. And what I noticed instead from other colleagues, from other animators, that they were struggle, is because instead of taking this approach, they were like, okay, I have 40 seconds of animation and a full month to do it. And so what they do, that they spend the first week to do the layout, try to do as good as possible. They don't go and ask often the feedback, so maybe they finish the first part of the layout by Friday on the first week, and then they ask it they ask feedback from the director after 1 week. They did a lot of work, and the director is like, this doesn't work, this doesn't, the story doesn't fit really well, the timing here doesn't work. And again, and then the feedback is a lot coming all suddenly all together, and then I need to spend another 4 days the second week to get the feedback, right? And then the feedback that is maybe this time is a little bit less, but bottom line, guys, they spend the first 2 weeks only to address the layout, right? And now they are remaining with only 2 more weeks to do blocking plus and spline, right? And so what I observe is that they spend the third weeks again to do all the blocking, right? And not even blocking plus, so their body mechanics is like kind of not very well done because they skip a lot of the transition. And then when they spline, they kind of struggle a little bit, or even worse, since the beginning of third week, they go from layout, they go straight to spline, right? They have a very rough blocking. They try to clean the poses, they try to figure out the body mechanics. And I can tell you guys, it's a nightmare for them because they really struggle. They are just guessing the body mechanics. They look like they don't know what they're doing, and that's the thing. Like they have to stay always very late. I remember through this moment they always stay late until 10 p.m. or whatever, and obviously was not very good. But again, I think it was mostly because at the beginning they take it very easily, like, oh, I have a full month to do that, so they really struggle to plan things properly, and then they waste a lot of time to layout that should be done very quickly, and then they have less time later for the things that are more important. That's why so much overtime, the quality doesn't look good, and it creates a lot of problem, right? So this was my first advice for you. The second one is, as you probably understood, I go and check for feedback to my supervisor or my director very often, at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depends on the speed, how much I'm going and how much feedback I need to address, right? And again, I know the supervisor or director are busy, but I'm like, you know what, their job is to help me, to guide me, so I'm gonna take full advantage. And especially at the beginning when I join a new show and everything, and I really want to understand the style of the show, the style of the character and everything, I'm gonna go there and ask for feedback very often, even though when sometimes my work is not very well polished, but I'm still gonna make sure it's presentable. Okay, 2 different things. For example, for the layout, yeah, my poses are not gonna fully develop maybe 70%, but when I'm gonna present to him the work, is like, hey, those are the main beats with the general direction. I will tell him right away, I know the poses are not perfect. I will readjust and redo some of the poses later once we are okay with the direction, right? As long as the poses were clear enough to understand what the character is communicating, right? And obviously in that way the director understand. He will give you only the feedback or the things that are important, and so that's the thing. Especially at the beginning, you don't want to have feedback about overlapping secondary action, things that are not really important at the stage, right? And so this one really helped me. And I notice a lot of people don't do that because they're like, oh, when I present my shot to the director, I want to make sure it's perfect, you know, or else it's gonna think I'm not really good. I don't think it's like that, because he has experience, you know, he's been there, you know, he's been an animator as well, so he knows what you're going through. You don't have to present something perfect. Present something so he can understand the direction that you're going, and if he sees some mistake, he can correct you early, and not when it's too late, when you already spent 2 weeks to the layout, because then you won't have time, and needs to needs to restrain himself to give you certain feedback, because you won't be able to do it. But again, it's not gonna look good on you, right? Now, the third thing is that when I was working, and I noticed that sometimes this is something happened to me, guys, now that I'm a supervisor or a director. So what I noticed is that people came to me for feedback. Okay, I give them the feedback, and sometimes the feedback that I give to them ideally supposed to be kind of easy to fix, should be done in an hour or something. But then they go back to me and it's like, oh, Alessandro, I'm really sorry it took me so long, but here there was some issue with the constraint, with the parent, with the gimbal lock, with the rig, props, whatever it is, and I struggle a lot, and it took me 2 days to fix it. And they explained to me what was the problem, and then I tell them, you know what, if you would have come to me with this problem 2 days ago, I would have showed you a better way to approach this one. You could have done this, this, and this, and you should have taken 1 hour rather than 2 days. And they're like, huh, yeah, like this I could have taken a lot less time. I should have asked you for help, blah blah blah. And they didn't do it, but they just waste a lot of time right now. And so again, I don't remember who said that, but someone says, if you're spending more than an hour, facing a problem and you cannot find a solution, rather than continue stay stuck in front of your computer and figure it out and going crazy, ask for help. Director, supervisor, ask help to your colleagues. Maybe they had a similar issue before and maybe they overcome it and now they know what to do. Or maybe they are just better in technical issues, stuff like that, that they can suggest you something. Don't just stay in front of the computer and think you are alone, you have to solve this problem, you cannot ask help anybody, because it's just a waste of time, guys. All right? And again, I notice here, like, sometimes people really struggle, or really they are afraid of ask for help. Maybe they have the fear that if they do that, they look like they're not very good at their job, they don't know what they're doing, they don't look professional. I don't know what it is, guys, but it doesn't help, because again, the counter side is that then you're spending so much time to do something could have been done in a shorter amount of time. All right? And the last thing is, I know I talked about this before, is procrastination, right? So again, you probably understood by now that I was very methodical when it comes to my work and everything. And it's the same when I work, okay? Normally for me, it's like I arrive at 9 a.m. in the morning, I leave 6 p.m. No matter what, I don't want to do overtime. I don't do overtime unless it's really necessary. In fact, through my career, very few times I've been doing overtime, unless when I went to feature film. And yes, and the thing is, when I was sitting in front of the computer, I didn't have any distraction. Yes, I take YouTube to listen music in the background, but I don't watch TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I saw some people listening Netflix movie while they're working. Like, I see them working on the computer and they put like their phone here. Sometimes they watch a movie or something. It's like, how the hell can you focus like this if you have all this distraction, right? I saw people like every hour standing up and go to the kitchen, eating something and chit-chatting and stuff like that. How are you gonna do your job done like this, honestly? And the issue is that at the end of the day, as I mentioned, they were staying very late to work. Okay, they stay until 10 p.m., 10:30. Sometimes I notice that they arrive at 11 or something, and it is all very messy. And when it comes to this moment, right, they also complaining about it. Oh, there is not enough time to do this shot. It's taking, I need more time, and I always staying over time. Well, not entirely true, because how come like me and a few other guys, we manage to do things on time, we don't do any overtime, the quality is good, and you arrive at 10 a.m. in the morning, you're constantly distracted. Every time I pass by behind you, you're watching something over the internet, and then you stay until late. I always see you chit-chatting with other people. Well, that's, it's very hard to justify to a company that you need more time, and you need more time, you don't want to do overtime, when actually you have this terrible workflow and methodology. You get distracted very, very easily, and again, at the company at some point can't do anything. You have to be the one who needs to be more disciplined and cut all this distraction and organize yourself better. Again, I know there is these things where, oh, artists, they're all very messy and everything, they are not very good in organizing. I don't think you can say like this anymore. I mean, our job is also technical. We have deadline. It's not like you can sit and do whatever you want and deliver things when you feel like it. It doesn't work like this in a company. So I mean, if you want to be like this, just be a painter or something, right? So I think there are a lot of people need to address those things, right? And of course, guys, there is always extreme cases where no matter what you're doing, your supervisor will never be happy about what you're doing, because maybe they're expecting perfection or stuff like that. There is always the other side, guys. Of course, things are always different, but sometimes I observe multiple companies have been, people are just not very focused. They are very messy with the workflow. They just do random things that go straight to spline. It's just very messy, and it slowed them down a lot eventually. And sometimes people get fired because of this, because they it just doesn't work. It's not very efficient. That sometimes your supervisor, if he see you're not doing a good job, he has to take away the shot from you or give it to someone else, right? So definitely doesn't look good on you as well, right? So I hope this kind of suggestions were interesting for you. Let me know in the comment, and see you next time. Ciao, guys.